What if a Parkinson's treatment existed that didn't simply manage symptoms, but actually worked to slow the disease at its core? That might sound like a familiar promise, and healthy skepticism is completely warranted. Over the years, Parkinson's research has raised expectations many times, yet few therapies have genuinely impacted disease progression. But what we're discussing today is different. In 2025, a new experimental therapy reached a significant milestone. Not because of a miracle, but because the scientific evidence behind it was strong enough to justify the largest and most critical phase of human clinical testing. This therapy is called Prasinezumab, a monoclonal antibody treatment, and it has officially entered phase 3 clinical trials for early-stage Parkinson's disease. In today's episode, we'll break down exactly what this drug is and how it works, why scientists are targeting alpha-synuclein, what the existing research has actually demonstrated, and what people living with Parkinson's should realistically expect as this next phase unfolds. No exaggeration, no false hope, just an honest, grounded look at the science. Welcome to the Parkinson's Disease Education Podcast. A quick reminder that this content is purely educational and does not substitute for professional medical advice. Now, let's get into it. First, an important clarification. Prasinezumab is not FDA approved and is not commercially available. It is an investigational monoclonal antibody currently being evaluated for Parkinson's disease. As of mid-2025, it has advanced into phase 3 trials. The final stage before regulatory approval can even be considered. To understand why this matters, we need to discuss its biological target, alpha-synuclein. This is a naturally occurring protein in the brain. The issue in Parkinson's disease is not its presence, but its behavior. It misfolds. As the disease advances, misfolded alpha-synuclein proteins clump together, forming structures known as Lewy bodies. These aggregates interfere with normal neuron function and ultimately lead to cell death. The core concept behind therapies like prasinezumab is straightforward. If you can reduce or slow alpha-synuclein aggregation, you may be able to slow Parkinson's progression itself. That's where monoclonal antibodies become relevant. Monoclonal antibodies are lab-engineered immune proteins. Prasinezumab is specifically designed to identify misfolded alpha-synuclein, bind to it, and signal the body's immune system to clear it. Your immune system naturally uses antibodies to detect and neutralize threats. Prasinezumab replicates that process, but with precision targeting of misfolded protein. This is why prasinezumab is classified as a disease-modifying strategy rather than a symptom management drug. It does not replace or boost dopamine. Instead, it aims to intervene at an earlier stage, targeting the disease process that drives neuron loss before that damage becomes irreversible. To recap, prasinezumab targets alpha-synuclein, the protein implicated in Parkinson's progression, using a monoclonal antibody approach designed to slow neurodegeneration rather than compensate for it. Its advancement into phase 3 is a meaningful step forward. So, what has the research shown so far? The first key study was a Pasadena phase 2 trial. It did not meet its primary endpoint, meaning the main measurable goal was not achieved. However, a deeper analysis of the data revealed something notable. Patients receiving prasinezumab showed slower progression of motor symptoms in certain analyses. The drug also appeared more effective in individuals whose disease was progressing more rapidly at the outset. Significant, given how variable Parkinson's progression can be. Secondary motor measures, including UPDRS scores, produced signals meaningful enough to continue the research that led to the PADOVA phase 2b trial. Once again, the primary endpoint was not met, but consistent patterns emerged across long-term data. These included slower motor decline in treated participants, signals repeated across multiple analytical approaches, and a safety and tolerability profile that remained acceptable throughout. The biological rationale for targeting alpha-synuclein also continue to hold up scientifically. Collectively, these findings provided sufficient justification for researchers to advance into Phase 3 in mid-2025. Phase 3 is the most rigorous and definitive stage of clinical testing. The drug is studied in larger, more diverse populations across multiple countries and research sites. To succeed, the trial must demonstrate statistically significant slowing of Parkinson's progression, clinically meaningful improvements in daily functioning, a long-term safety profile appropriate for wider use, and consistent benefits across different patient subgroups. Only if those benchmarks are met can the manufacturer apply for regulatory approval. Even then, agencies like the FDA will carefully evaluate the benefit-risk balance, the stage of disease at which the drug must be used, and whether biomarkers like alpha-synuclein levels align with the clinical outcomes observed. Expectations must remain realistic. This is not a cure. It is not yet accessible outside of trials. Many drugs fail at Phase 3. That reality must be acknowledged. Here is a larger takeaway, though. For the first time, we are witnessing multiple disease-modifying strategies advancing simultaneously, not just dopamine replacement therapies. Earlier this year, we covered drugs like RO7364939 being studied for a capacity to protect dopamine-producing cells from toxicity, rather than simply compensating after those cells are gone. Prasinezumab represents one of the most advanced antibody-based approaches targeting alpha-synuclein. The earlier trials were imperfect, but Phase 3 entry signals that the overall body of evidence was strong enough to justify the largest possible test. For those interested in participation, Phase 3 trials may offer earlier access to emerging therapies, though it's important to understand that this stage is where hope meets evidence. Is prasinezumab the breakthrough the Parkinson's community has been waiting for? Honestly, we don't know yet, but we are closer than ever to finding out. The research direction is encouraging, the science is sound, and disease modification is no longer just a concept. It is being tested at scale. As new data emerges, we'll keep you informed. If you found this episode useful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who might benefit. Thank you for watching and listening. Be empowered, and I'll see you in the next episode.